Good afternoon, Facebook, and welcome back to Let's Talk Wednesdays. My name is Melshani Collins, and I am the CEO and family advocate of the G.R.A.C.E Agency, where we advocate for families that have child welfare cases. We also help fathers to gain rights to their children through legitimation, and we connect families to local community resources. And so, for those of you that have never seen our Let's Talk Wednesday, you've never even came across my channel. What we do here at Let's Talk Wednesdays is we feature different organizations that's able to give you a little bit of insight about the resources and the services that they have to offer. And the reason why we started doing this at the beginning of this year is because there are so many resources out there that are available to you and in the community, but we don't know about them. I go to so many events and I meet so many people at networking events, and I come across so many services that I thought would be so great to share with you in the community. And so instead of getting you to come out to us, what we do is we come out to you, and we meet you where you are. Most people are on social media every day, all day, right? And so what we want to do is while you're scrolling, while you're browsing, is that if you know that you or your family or someone that you know may be in need of these services, prayerfully you'll come across our live and it'll be able to bless you, right? There's so many families that come across our lives and end up saying, hey, Miss Collins, I seen the live that you did about DFACS, and thank you so much. I went and I solicited their services, or I seen a live that you did with this resource, this organization, and it has helped my family. Okay. And so if you are in need of any of the services that the G.R.A.C.E Agency have to offer, you can definitely give us a call for a free consultation at 678-729-7261, or you can visit our website, which is www.grace-ga. But I'm not going to hold you all any longer. I'm so excited that today we have a new resource that I found out about Kate's Club at the SOCA conference. So there was a SOCA conference that was last year. For those of you that don't know what a SOCA conference is, it is a System of Care Academy, right? We're all helping professionals in all genres of just social work, and different organizations, agencies come together and we learn. We go to different classes, we go to different sessions, and we get information during that conference. And so I came across Kate's Club while I was there on last year. And what I found out that was interesting about Kate's Club is that they have a specific niche that they assist families with that I did not know was a resource out there. And it was very interesting to me as I started to learn their services. And so I wanted to introduce to you Kate's Club. We are going to be speaking with Ms. Lane Peace Hendricks. She is the Director of Education and Innovative Programs at Kate's Club. And so I just want to welcome her. And first of all, thank you so much, Ms. Lane, for agreeing to be on our Let's Talk Wednesday today. And I just want to give her the floor so she can introduce herself, give a little bit more information on what she does at Kate's Club and the services that they have to offer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mel. I thank you for this opportunity. I love opportunities to talk about Kate's Club and our work that we do. Kate's Club is a bereavement organization for children and their families and young adults. So we deal specifically with the death when people have experienced the death of someone important to them. And we do this at no cost to families or young adults. We have a unique model that's social, recreational, and therapeutic in nature. So we don't do any clinical one-on-one therapy. So if you're looking for that for a child or young adult, that's not us, but it is if you want a community of support, if you want grief support in a group. So we have been around 21 years. We were founded by Kate Atwood, who experienced the death of her mother at 12 when she was 12
Mhm.
years old. And though she knew her family, they all loved her dad and her brother, and they loved each other, but they didn't talk. And she didn't know any other children who had experienced the death. So after an experience volunteering at a bereavement camp when she was just 23 and moved to Atlanta, she started Kate's Club. So what it started was just getting kids who had experienced the death of a parent, sibling, or caregiver
Mhm.
together to do fun outings. So just so they'd know a child that was going through the same thing, another child or teenager. What it evolved into for those first 6 kids going bowling, I believe, was, added support groups and then added parent support. Then, 10 about 11 years ago, I started 12 years ago, but about 11 years ago, I started doing school groups. So what it's evolved into is now Kate's Club serves has served thousands of children and teens and their families. 2 years ago, we started serving young adults. 2 years ago, we moved into Albany, Georgia, and Brunswick, Georgia as well. We also have in person services in Noonan and Athens, as well as Atlanta, and a virtual component. So, what it really evolved with just that desire to build a community has grown into a pretty large community to
Okay.
help grieving folks. Mhm.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I did do a little bit of research on your website, and I see that you offer specific clubs or grief groups that are based off of age. And I saw one of them that was very interesting to me. And one of those clubs was called the Locate Club. Can you give me more information
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, so Locate is our young adult program. That's for those 18 to 30-ish, I would say. We let
Mhm,
you kind of self-identify as a young adult. And it's going really well. So we knew there was a gap in services. So we're supporting the children and their adults. We
mhm,
know that there's community groups many times that have a lot of older people in them, right? The
mhm,
bereavement groups at your local church or something like that might have a lot of older people. But we knew, and we were supporting those parent age, if for grief, if they had children. But those 18 to 30-year-olds, for years, we'd been getting calls. Do you have anything for me? My mom died and I'm 22. Or, a girlfriend died while a young man was in college. I remember that call. Um, so we know, just for instance, in Georgia, the rate of bereavement for children, five, before they graduate for high school, it's 1 in 11 children will experience the death of a parent or sibling. That's just parent or sibling, not grandparent or not someone else close to them. That rate doubles by the age of 25. So
mhm.
that we knew that there was a large population that needed our support. So our Locate program is for young adults, is for those 18 to 30-ish. We do 2 meetings per month. We do one that's entirely virtual. So we have people from all over the country, even people from Canada join our
Mhm,
group. And then we have one group that's hybrid. So those that do are local to Atlanta, or maybe they're home from college, they come in and have dinner. And then we Zoom those other participants that are remote in with us. So we have the technology to kind of all be in the room together.
okay.
Um, from different places. So that's been really great. And just like Kate's Club, we do outings 3 times a year. With Locate, we also go out into the community and do some things, whether that's doing Pet Shack or pottery painting was their last one, going on
Mhm,
hikes, going apple picking. So a few times a year, they also do these meetups that's now only in the Atlanta area, but we hope to kind of replicate that so our members that are maybe in other areas get together on those same days and do something.
mhm.
But it's going really well, and there's some really unique challenges, just like there are for children who've experienced the death of someone. There's unique challenges in that young adult. You're really figuring out who you are and navigating a lot of changes, and you're doing that without an important person to you, and that could be any important person that has died in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, again, you all have a lot of different clubs and programs that cater to helping people through that grief process. What are some other services that your organization has to offer?
Right. So our main core service, we call it our clubhouse programs because in here in Brookhaven in Atlanta, we have a clubhouse.
Okay.
In other regions, that clubhouse may be sharing space with a boys and girls club or a church, to help us have that space for families. So the core of our programs is kids coming together, being in their age group, and doing a variety of different activities. They might do yoga, circus arts, art, play therapy activity based on their age, therapy activities. So
Mm-hmm.
even though we're not therapy, we offer therapeutic activities. And
Okay.
it's all built on a theme of the month to help them guide them through their grief experience. And then, so while the kids are doing that, we have parent groups. So we have, it's called our park bench, and those are offered in person and online. And the parents can come, whether that parent is a grandparent that's parenting, or like last night with a new family auntie that's become the guardian for her niece, the aunt and uncle. So we'd have, anybody that's parenting a child, a grieving child, would come to that group.
Okay.
Um, we also do family nights. So once a month, we have the whole family come in and they have dinner together with other families, and we'll do an activity, everything from family game night to doing our 1 month we did our family love, our love languages, finding about everyone, not just the child or not just the parent,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone's love language in the family. So we find out how we communicate. Um, though grief is happening, they're also going through the same thing that normal families and normal children and teens and young adults go through. So it's all kinds of gets mixed up together, and we hope to help them, guide them through that journey. So we don't just talk about grief, we talk about things like going back to school. We talk about self-esteem. We talk about self-care a lot.
Okay, got you. So, how are people able to reach you, or what is the specific criteria that you all have in place if people are wanting to get involved into these different groups that you offer?
Sure. So there's we call it our membership. You can go to www.catesclub.org and just fill out a form there, whether you're a young adult or a adult applying for your children. You just go through that, and somebody will be in touch. Usually, weekly emails go out to our families who have applied that just welcome them and tell them a little more about the process.
Mm-hmm.
For those 5 to 18, we do a phone interview with the guardian, and then we do, if they're 8 and older, we do something called a bereavement needs assessment. So we can get to know that child better and know child or teen and know kind of where they are in their grief process. And do they need any extra support? So do we need to say, hey, I think Kate's Club will be great, but if they're not seeing an individual therapist, perhaps they need to see someone as well. So we really try to give them a lot of support,
Okay.
and then they become members. Another program as part of our membership is our camp, that we have both a family camp once a year and a kids camp. So those are weekend camps out at Camp Twin Lakes. Do want to emphasize that all of this is free of charge to our families and young
Okay.
adults. So there's no fee. We are run on donations and on grants and sponsorships, and just, a lot of support from a very supportive community.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have volunteer opportunities. So if you're hearing this and maybe you're older and you don't, many of our volunteers experienced a death when they were younger, but we are mainly run by volunteers that work with our children, that actually do kind of the day in and day out with our kids. So if you're interested in volunteering, that's found on our website as well.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so, what are some things that Kate's Club does to foster a sense of community, not only with the members, but also with the staff, whether they're volunteering or not, so that they can be able to relate with the children and the parents that have gone through the grief process or that are currently going through the grief
Yeah.
process?
So we make sure our volunteers are very supported. They go through pretty intensive training,
Okay.
and our staff does too. Even if you're working in fundraising, you need to know the basics of how, child bereavement and young adult bereavement, and how we support, very basic things, of things not to say or to say. We for instance, with young children, using the word lost or pass away is very confusing to them sometimes. So that's why you'll hear at Kate's Club, you hear the word die.
Mm-hmm.
because we have to explain it to kids sometimes that what that means. And if they think someone's lost, I had a little girl in a school one time said, "But we lost somebody." So she thought, though a classmate had died, there was also a classmate that was lost because she heard
Oh,
that terminology. So we
okay.
make sure we support our volunteers and our staff so they don't just do initial trainings. They do that's what I'm as a director of education I do is advanced trainings per year.
Okay.
And another thing we do in the community, we know we can't reach the 200 over 200,000 children in Georgia that are grieving. And again, just grieving the death of a parent sibling. That's not counting all those that have grieving someone else important to them. We do trainings with professionals. So those school counselors, social workers, sometimes teachers, um, therapists in the community, boys and girls clubs, big brothers, big sisters, after school programs, CASA, court advocates. We also have been doing groups in the juvenile court in DeKalb County. So we really try to educate people who are working with kids, not just, since we can't reach every grieving child, would love to, since we can't, we want to create an environment and make sure the adults around them are supportive and know how to support them. A lot of supporting a grieving person, whether you have a friend or you're supporting a child, is being available and listening and staying away from platitudes. We teach people like saying they're in a better place,
Mm,
even if the griever believes that, that's great, and if they want to express that, but telling someone they're in a better place or that God needed them more or that everything happens for a reason, those
mm-hmm.
kinds of things aren't really helpful to people who are grieving and hurt. They need someone that'll listen. Sometimes just saying, "I don't know what to say, but thank you for sharing."
Mm-hmm.
Many times I'll say to our families, just thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, because that can be a lot. And sometimes, especially when it is a fresh situation, you have so many people, checking on you. And even though that is, or trying to give you words of encouragement, and even though that feels like something that that person may need at that moment, it still might be hard for them to process the loss. And they might not want to, hear that they're in a better place or God needed them more, because again they feel attached to that person and their legacy, and just dealing with that person not being there could be very hard. And sometimes, just like you said, those things might not help even though we think they do. uh,
Right, right.
so what are some positive stories or testimonials about how Kate's Club has been able to uplift someone going through the grief process?
Oh, there's just so many. I think about one of our young women who joined many years ago now, really, after a really tragic death in her family of a murder suicide situation.
Oh.
And at first, she wasn't able to talk about it.
Mhm.
She told people it was an accident. And slowly, she's also going to individual therapy somewhere too, but also with the community and the support, she was able to start talking and sharing. She then told her school that we needed a Kate's Club group at her school because we do those 6-week school groups. So she advocated to have a group at her school.
Mhm.
She became, we called her a child champion because of her work on behalf of other grieving children. She went to college, became the president of the chapter of their college of the NAACP.
Oh,
She
wow.
is now a voter organizer in Louisiana. So, there's people like her that she'll say part of the help was that community and that support of other kids, but also her buddy volunteers and the staff here at Kate's Club. You hear many times parents will say, we weren't talking about the person who died. We were all just hurt in our own corners. And the child comes home from a program at Kate's Club and just starts talking because
Mhm.
that's what they've done during the day, or they're show them their something they made and honor the person, and it'll facilitate that conversation. And she goes, now we we talk as a family and we can be open with that. So there's many stories of just kind of a transformation. Many kids, especially our teens, come in very reluctant because
Mm-hmm.
they think it's going to be a space where we sit around in a circle, we talk about our feelings, very somber, very serious. Whereas they come into Kate's Club, it's bright colors on the walls, it's a game room, it's an art room, it's our teen lounge where just the teenagers can hang. And, by the time they leave, they have a very different impression. And one of the words, we just had an orientation last night, and one of the words from one of the new members was refreshing. It was just different,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll share words like support. And a lot of the younger kids will just say fun, like, what is your impression of your first night here at Kate's Club? And they say fun or caring. So, even though they're reluctant, once we can get them in the doors and,
Mm-hmm.
get them to doing programs, they usually change a lot. Kids get each other's information and become friends. And so do parents kind of outside our clubhouse programs, which is what we want.
Right. Absolutely. So, are there any challenges or difficulties that yourself and the staff may face when it comes to children that are in the program or parents that are in the program, but really trying to reach them mentally and being able to get them to trust you to help them with the process?
Yeah, I think, some of our biggest problems is just getting people past that application process. I mean, we say it's an application. It's mainly just the information for the person to apply and make sure, that most people are fine to join.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have to be a loss by death and things like that. But it's really getting to that next step. A lot of people fill out that form online and then not follow up. And I think that's understandable in the sense of when you've had someone die in your life, you feel very vulnerable. You feel your whole world's been rocked. So to do
Mm-hmm.
one more thing, right? One more thing, it's just a challenge. We want to be there. We have a membership associate that can really walk those families through the process
Mm-hmm.
and do one step at a time. It's not an intensive process. We have orientations 3 times a month. We have one online, we have two in person to help them get to to their first part of Kate's Club joining. And we can get them to that point. Usually they're pretty like, oh, okay. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just reluctance of, am I going to open a can of worms that I can't put back together? If we talk, if I share this, with stigmatized deaths too. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody's experienced a death by suicide or drug overdose, which has been on the rise, you know, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to share that. I feel shame around it and sometimes guilt. And they get to Kate's Club and then they meet others that are going through that same thing. And it's really normalizes it for people and makes them feel less. But I think our biggest barrier is kind of getting them here, getting them in the doors. Um, our school groups, our 6-week school groups are great because they're very accessible. They're at many schools around Metro Atlanta and in Southwest Georgia and in um, Athens area and in coastal Georgia. But then, we want the kids to come into our school groups, but then would love for the family to join our family programs so that parent or guardian can get support as well.
Okay. Okay. And you talked about families just getting past the application process just to move forward with it. They're going to come to Case Club, see what you all are about and the services that you have to offer. Once they get into Kate's Club and they start liking it, what is the collaboration that you all have with other mental health professionals that may be in that field if you feel like a family is in need of more intensive services?
So we have a referral form that the family just fills out, or if we see something at programs, frankly, if a staff member or a buddy volunteer, alerts us to like, I think this child is really struggling and may need more help.
Hmm.
Many times it's the guardian or parent that reaches out and says, "Do you have a referral for um, um, a clinician that can work with my child or work with me. And we do have a vetted list. We have open houses once a year where we get to know therapists that are, and we make them tell us their special, their training and grief, and make sure they're appropriate to work with that.
Hmm.
So we try to give families like two or three options.
Okay.
And, we can't attest to every single person, but that's why we give them options. I say, also when you're looking for a therapist, it's kind of like dating. Check the person out,
It is.
do that initial. Usually therapists have a free consultation, and so do that initial consultation to see if the person's a good fit for you or for your child. For children, you got to go with somebody that's well versed in play therapy. By teens, sometimes they're willing to just sit and talk, but for children, they're going to be doing art or play. So, an art therapist who works well with grief, or a play therapist, or somebody well versed in play and working with children is key.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is important, because children, depending on what they've went through prior to the grief and accompanied with the grief, they have a hard time, trusting and wanting to share something that is so personal to them that has happened. So that definitely is important. And so, what is your engagement like with volunteers and people that want to help and want to be of assistance to the Kids Club? What is your engagement process with them, and how can they become a volunteer with your
Yeah.
organization?
That's a great question. So we have a variety of ways to volunteer. Our first is what I talked about. If you really like working directly with children, it's
Hmm.
called our Buddy Volunteers. You fill out a form online. You'll
Okay.
have to upload references, and we do a background screen. We check those references, and we then you would come in for orientation. We have those once a month, and it's a hybrid too. So if you're in a different part of the state and say you want to volunteer in Noonan, which we need volunteers, by the way, if anybody's in Noonan, or Brunswick or Albany or Athens, you can do the virtual session, but we'll have people here in person in Atlanta as well. So if you just have a passion for working with children,
Hmm.
a lot of our volunteers experience the death of somebody when they were younger, but not all. Some people just have a passion for working with children. So
Hmm.
that's a big way to get involved. And again, we don't throw you in cold, but if you're not sure, we have something called a clubhouse support team where you could come in and shadow someone at a program
Hmm.
day to see if this is something, do I really want to become a full-fledged buddy volunteer?
Hmm.
Some other ways to engage with Kate's Club is to make a meal. If you have maybe a Sunday school class or a small group at your faith community, or a school or something like that, and you want to do some volunteer work for our orientation or a family night, volunteer to make a meal and come and serve it is something people have done.
Okay.
um, Another things that some businesses do sometimes is do a drive. We have an Amazon wish list. As you can imagine, we go through a lot of snacks and art supplies and things like that. And we always feed our families, by the way, when they're here.
Okay.
So, just knowing that that's a need. If you have a special talent and you're just really want to get involved with Kate's Club, but maybe not working with children one on one, just reach out. There's usually things you can do. Sometimes we do have therapists that maybe do play or recreation or whatever, that maybe want to come and do sessions at Kate's Club. Or maybe you have, I think we're having llamas visits soon, so
Oh, wow.
you might have something that just would be great to share with kids and families. So maybe you don't want to be a regular volunteer, but you have like you do dance, and I'd love to teach a dance, session, things like that. If you have a special talent, jewelry making, anything that you think you would like to offer our children or families, we're always open to that and having a discussion.
Awesome, awesome. And so we're almost nearing the interview, but I did want to ask, with all the programs and the clubs that you have and the volunteer activities and all of the activities that you do with the family and why this organization even got started, what are some future goals and aspirations of the organization in terms of where they want to take it, where they see Kate's Club being in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because we're working on our new next strategic plan. And so we're really asking ourselves that question. One of the big things is through our schools, we've been able to connect with kids that probably would not get services otherwise in
Mhm.
reaching areas of the state by hiring contractors that do our groups. So I know that will continue to grow. We also doing work in the juvenile court, and there's a lot of interest in there. We did a 12-week group with DeKalb Juvenile Court because we know
Mhm.
about 90% of kids in youth detention centers have experienced the death of someone important to them. So we
Mhm.
really want to disrupt that pipeline from grief to prison. And it
Mhm.
does happen. So that's another big area we want to work in. And I think it's just expanding our reach, really growing those programs in our areas of Southwest and coastal Georgia, as well as
Okay.
the Athens area. And then maybe choosing that next area, whether that's middle Georgia and Macon or whether it's up in the, North Georgia somewhere.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And Miss Lane, I want you to tell me, with you being in this profession, you said you've been with Kate's Club for 12 years?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, what is your why? What keeps you getting up and coming and assisting families that are coming to you at their most vulnerable time in their lives?
Yeah. Well, they are the why. When I hear and I get emails all the time, it's helping. And even after orientation, how they say this was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
because they feel alone and they're not. And my own personal story was that my first husband died when my kids were 9 months old and 4 years old. And
Wow.
they're now in their 20s. So I see, how much that would have helped them. And I
Mhm.
also have been in a variation of a lot of our parents' shoes. So I think it's become full circle that I'm here helping them now.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that is all that I have, Miss Lane. Thank you for sharing so much information. And lastly, also, can you give the audience information on location of where you all are located,
Yes.
your main office, and also information on if they wanted to call into the office to find out
Yeah.
more about Kate's Club, how they can do that?
Yes. So our phone number is 404-347-7619, and that will get you to the person you need to speak to, whether that's interested in membership or in a different region. And our best way to get in touch with us is on our website, www.catesclub.org. You can find our information, our contact there, because we're in Atlanta. We're at 1190 West Druid Hills Road in Brookhaven. So it's right, in Atlanta, just north of downtown. But again, we do have locations in Noonan, Athens, Brunswick or Albany, but since those are shared space, just
Mm-hmm.
go into our website and clicking on the coordinators for that area, or just going to our membership person, or calling our number. We'll get you in touch with the right person.
Okay. And what's your website?
www.catesclub, all one word, .org.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, again, Miss Lane, thank you so much for speaking with us on today. If I receive any messages or anything like that, I'll be sure to pass them your information on how they can give you all a call or visit your website so that they're able to fill out the application. But thank you so much, Miss Lane, for sharing what Kate's Club does, because your organization does a great job at interacting with the community around grief. And like I said before, I have not seen a specific organization that was centered around bereavement. And I think that you all are different and you're doing something that's great, because a lot of people are experiencing death at a rapid rate. Even now, we're hearing it all the time. People dying,
Yes.
whether it's from disease or murder or however, suicide. And your organization is needed. So thank you so much, Ms. Lane, for speaking with us
You're
today.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. And you have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.